Guys, I hate adjustable gas blocks because they ruin everything. Okay guys, maybe I'm being just a little hyperbolic in my language there, but there is a ton of reasons why you wouldn't just want to throw an adjustable gas block on your gun unless you absolutely needed it. I have a couple of horror stories that I'm gonna share with you guys and give you some reasons why I think adjustable gas blocks are a bit overrated in my estimation. And then I'm gonna give you a few reasons why I still begrudgingly use them, even though most of the time I really don't want to. So one time when I was at the range with Charlie and Josh, who you can check out over at the AT3 Tactical Podcast, by the way, we were in the middle of a pretty large video shoot when it was time to test out one of the ARs that we had built just for this shoot, which included an adjustable gas block, of course. Charlie took the gun that I had built with an adjustable gas block and began the process of tuning the gun while we were working on something else, setting up cameras or something. For those of you who don't know, this process includes shooting one round at a time until there is enough gas cycling through the system to lock the bolt back. Charlie kept doing this process for an unusual amount of time. He kept going round after round, shot after shot, and the bolt never locked back properly. On this particular gas block, it featured an adjustment screw at the front end of the gas block. So you had to keep loosening that in order to allow more gas to cycle through the system. Charlie kept loosening and loosening and loosening until finally one of his shots ejected that tiny adjustment screw pretty much all the way downrange, never to be seen again. The guys and I looked all across the gravelly dirt of the range, but it was hopeless, guys. There was no finding that screw ever again, and now the entire gun was basically just a paperweight. At this point, you couldn't shoot it. The gas block was all messed up, and our whole video shoot was pretty much ruined for the rest of the day. If that gas block just cooperated and worked well while we were out there, we could have done everything we needed to that day and executed the plan without any problems. But when one small piece like that goes wrong, then the entire range day is thrown off, just like it did with me and the guys. Another time we were out at the range with our local buddies over at Target Sports, and I was testing out an adjustable gas block on a really nice 300 Blackout AR pistol. Since we were shooting 300 Blackout, and since this gun did have an adjustable gas block on it as well, it required some tuning. Unlike the last gas block that I used in the previous story, this one was a collar design. What that meant was that there was an adjustable collar that wrapped around the barrel that you had to twist from side to side in order to allow more or less gas to flow through a smaller or larger opening. I specifically chose this kind of gas block because I didn't want to deal with any screws flying out at me again, so that we could have a perfectly functioning gun in the end. Once again, I began the process of tuning the gun, shooting one shot at a time until the bolt locked back. But what happened this time? Well, in order to secure that collar to the barrel, there is a small set screw that I had to tighten to keep the collar in the right spot. But when I went to loosen the screw to properly tune the gun, that screw broke in half. One part of it was still in the threads on the collar, and the other half was on my Allen wrench. This meant I was unable to properly tune the gun because that collar was stuck in the smallest possible position, meaning there was only a minimal amount of gas cycling through the gun. This left me on the firing line with a very expensive single-action AR, having taken the time to go out and pay for range time, and with no way to properly tune the gun to make sure that it works. Not only that, but the gas block and the barrel are basically broken because I didn't have a way to remove that screw and replace it with a different one. To this day, that 300 Blackout barrel is still in our studio with the gas block collar stuck to it because there really isn't a way except for cutting this thing off, which is not something that I'm really able to do at this point. These are two separate occurrences where the gas block did me dirty, guys, and needless to say, I'm left pretty scarred and traumatized from those two experiences. But there are other reasons why gas blocks are nowhere near as ideal as some other options out there. Before I go through those reasons, let me know, guys, if you have any horror stories about gas blocks down in the comments below. If you guys have any really good ones, then I'll pin them in the comments so that the rest of our audience can see what I'm talking about. I need to know if I'm the only one, guys, so please get down there. I want to point out that there are a ton of adjustable gas blocks out there. There are ones from Superlative Arms that are super popular and are really cost effective. Odin Works also has one that I've used and really enjoyed. And then there are the collar designed ones, like this one from Strike Industries, that actually have a great reputation and tons of people use them. All of these gas blocks give you the ability to put them on your AR and tune the amount of gas that is going into your system, which thereby helps you fine-tune the recoil impulse of your gun. But each brand is kind of its own take on how they do adjust the gas. For example, there are some out there that physically move the gas tube to make that opening in the tube smaller or larger, which regulates the gas intake. What I'm saying here is that there's a bunch of options out there, guys, and I haven't tried them all by any means, but this is just my experience. And I know there are many people out there who use these adjustable gas blocks every day without any issues. However, there are some serious downsides that a lot of people seem to just forget when talking about this kind of upgrade. So let's go through those really quickly outside of just the pure anecdotal stories that I have and look at the real hard evidence that I can present to you guys. The first problem is when you're adjusting your gas block, it's often hidden under the handguard here. This means that when you go out to the range to test fire and tune your gun, you have to remove the handguard either before you go to the range or while you're out in the field. This necessitates bringing an assortment of different tools with you to disassemble the handguard, tune your gas block, and then reassemble everything. For someone like me, Josh, or anybody else here at the AT3 team who's very familiar with this platform and takes apart hundreds of handguards a year and helps the ops team build dozens of them a day, then that's not as big of a deal for people like us. But for someone who's newer to the AR platform or someone who's just a little bit less comfortable taking their guns apart in a range setting, then this is not the most ideal thing to do. If you're running an adjustable gas block, then you have to worry about constantly having an extra set of tools in your range bag. And hopefully you don't just have one set of those. Because if you forget and you can't take off your handguard or you don't have the right sized Allen wrench to properly tune your gun, then your whole day could be completely ruined. Worst case scenario, maybe you just wasted an hour and a half driving one way to your private outdoor range and then remember, oops, I forgot the Allen wrench to remove the set screws on my handguard, so now I can't tune my gas block properly. That's a big oof, guys. But you might ask,
why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
CJ, once you tune your gun, it's fine, right? Everything's all set up. It's not like I have to constantly tune and then retune this thing over and over again every time I go to the range, right? Well, I'll tell you what, Greg, you're not entirely right. And I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But first, let's talk about the next problem that I'm constantly dealing with adjustable gas blocks. So next problem is every time I go out to the range with an adjustable gas block, it always involves 10, 15, or 20 minutes of me or one of my team members having to shoot a whole bunch of rounds just to tune in the gun. What this does is it's costing us money because we're shooting ammo, obviously, sometimes going through as many as 10, 12, maybe even 25 rounds or more just to tune the gun properly. At the same time, it's taking away from the real shooting fun. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I go to the range, I just want to get my guns out, get my eye and ear pro on, and start having some fun doing some target practice or drills or whatever else that I'm trying to accomplish that day. I don't want to waste my time or money having to make sure my gun is tuned in properly before I go and actually start having the real fun of the day. That one might be a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but again, guys, let me know down in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you guys always have to retune your guns when you go to the range? Okay, let's get back to Greg's question real quick. Do you have to constantly retune your gun every time you go out to the range? Depending on where you live and when you shoot, that answer could actually be yes. Let me explain real quick. Say you go to the shooting range in the middle of summer. It's a nice 70 degrees and you tune your adjustable gas block in perfectly. You dial it in until you have just enough gas to reliably lock the bolt back. You shoot all day, pack up, and maybe you don't bring that gun back out to the range until the late fall time. Well, in most of the country, fall weather is drastically different. Now it's 45 degrees. You pull out the gun you thought was tuned in perfectly, but suddenly it's not cycling. You're practically shooting a bolt action one round at a time. Worse yet, you didn't bring the tools to remove the handguard or the right-sized Allen wrench to adjust the gas block because you thought everything was working just fine the last time you brought it out to the range. Which, of course, it was. So, what happened? It comes down to temperature and pressure. When the temperature drops, your ammunition gets cold, which means the powder produces less pressure when it fires. On top of that, the cold metal and thickened gun lube create more friction inside the system. If your gas block was tuned right on the bleeding edge of reliability during the summer weather, that cold weather drop-off is going to starve the gun of the gas that it needs to properly cycle. What this means is your recoil impulse changes, your reliability tanks, and you're forced to break out the tools and waste time and ammo retuning in your gun all over again. This leads me to my next problem that I'm always running into. If something goes wrong with the gas block, like unexpected cold weather or something else like my 2 stories at the beginning of the video, it could ruin your whole shooting day. I don't know about you, but I don't go around carrying an extra bag of gas blocks and gas tubes in my range bag every day. Well, I mean, now I do because I'm traumatized, but that's besides the point, guys. Most people don't go around carrying basically an extra gun worth of spare parts in their bag just in case something goes wrong. But your gas block is a particularly egregious case here because if something goes wrong with the gas system in your AR, your gun is reduced to becoming a single-action firearm. Beyond just turning your gun into a single-shot firearm, adjustable gas blocks bring in several mechanical variables. These pain points include carbon fouling that can seize adjustment screws permanently and causing them to break, like what happened with me. Erosion of internal components due to high-pressure gases, and the risk of screws walking out of place due to the rifle's vibrations over time. What I'm trying to say here is adding an adjustable gas block replaces a foolproof solid component with a complex system of small springs and screws that can fail under high heat or hard use, making it a touchy choice for anyone who's prioritizing absolute reliability over fine-tuning. All right, enough hating. Hating is now illegal. We all read the title of this video. We all know that I still use adjustable gas blocks here and there, and there are good reasons for that. The number one reason these days is the cost. And let me explain, it gets a little complicated. Under normal conditions, I used to say, screw adjustable gas blocks, just get an adjustable buffer instead, or at least get yourself a couple of generic H1, H2, or H3 buffers and just keep them in your range bag. You can use those to tune your gun much easier in a much simpler way. Instead of having to disassemble the handguard and take that off and waste a bunch of time and ammo trying to tune in your gun, you can just crack open the upper receiver, push that little buffer retaining pin down, and the buffer and spring will just pop right out. Throw in a different weight buffer, slide the whole thing back in, and then put your upper back on. You're ready to rock and roll, and that takes maybe 5 to 10 seconds if you know what you're doing. Even though that was the no-brainer and maybe even better alternative to an adjustable gas block, unfortunately, things have changed a bit in the industry recently. Look, I might be dating myself a little bit here, but as the recording of this video, around April of 2026, the price of buffers has skyrocketed. The biggest reason for this is the rising cost of tungsten. We here at AT3 have to constantly communicate with suppliers and manufacturers, and the biggest rumblings out there in the mean streets of the supply chains are that there is a massive tungsten shortage. That means that the price of buffers is going up because tungsten is the main material that is used to help weigh down those heavier H1, H2, or H3 buffers. I know I've talked to my guys here at the shop, and the rising cost of tungsten which is essential for those heavier buffers, has forced suppliers to adjust buffer prices multiple times just this year alone. So my previous argument of just saying get an adjustable buffer and just use that instead of an adjustable gas block is a little bit more complicated at this point, since getting a whole bunch of buffers or even an adjustable one is going to be more of an investment, at least for now, than just getting an adjustable gas block and dealing with the idiosyncrasies that come along with it. Another big reason that I or somebody like me might want to use an adjustable gas block is if you're shooting some kind of exotic caliber. If you've been following the channel for a while, most of you know that I am a huge 300 Blackout fan.
Lame.
I love that caliber so much, and one of the unique things about it is you can shoot it with different ammo loads, meaning you can shoot either 125 grain supersonic rounds all the way up to 220 or 250 grain subsonic rounds. When you're shooting these two different rounds, you're going to have to adjust your gas system because you're shooting different ammo with different powders and different pressures, depending on the weight of the projectile that is being fired. So if you're into shooting different kinds of ammo with different kinds of weights, like 300 Blackout or 338 ARC, for example, then using an adjustable gas block is going to give you way more control over how the gun feels and how it cycles, or if it even cycles correctly in the first place. Since I'm a 300 Blackout nerd, then whenever I'm building out a 300 Blackout gun, I'm usually choosing an adjustable gas block for this reason. And even though you could do things like get an adjustable buffer or some other components to help tune your gas system, the best way to get the lightest recoiling, best feeling gun possible is to get a combination of all these components. For example, if I were to try to build out the lightest recoiling gun, I'd probably get something like a stealth recoil system with an ultra lightweight bolt carrier group and pair it with an adjustable gas block. Man, that thing would feel just sweet and buttery to shoot. Lots of people have done similar videos on this exact topic that you can go check out. So at the end of the day, it's probably best not to just hate on one specific component like adjustable gas blocks and instead see the utility that they do have while also balancing that with your own personal preferences of not wanting to use certain parts at certain times depending on the build that you're going for. One thing that I didn't mention at all though was to use an adjustable bolt carrier group. This is a really innovative idea that has been coming around more and more recently, where instead of fine-tuning the gas at the gas block, you're actually tuning it in the BCG in some way. This is a very interesting idea, but it can cause a little bit of confusion if you don't know how exactly the BCG works. So if you guys want to learn all about the bolt carrier group, how it works from end to end and all of the components, then you can check out this video right over here. I did it all about how the bolt carrier group works. I'll see you guys right over there. Audience here in the AT3 Tactical community, like Ching from Community. I'm like the black guy from Community. What's his name? That takes what, 6 or 7 seconds if you know what you're doing?